space in front of me. Battery.
Since Robinson Crusoe's experiences are a favorite theme of political economists, let us take a look at him on his island. Moderate though he be, yet some few wants he has to satisfy, and must therefore do a little useful work of various sorts, such as making tools, furniture, taming goats, fishing, and hunting. Of his prayers and the like we take no account, since they are a source of pleasure to him, and he looks upon them as so much recreation. In spite of the variety of his work, he knows that his labor, whatever its form, is but the activity of one and the same Robinson, and consequently, that it consists of nothing but different modes of human labor. Necessity itself compels him to apportion his time accurately between his different kinds of work. Whether one kind occupies a greater space in the general activity than another depends on the difficulties, greater or less, as the case may be, to be overcome in attaining the useful effect aimed at. This our friend Robinson soon learns by experience, and having rescued a watch, ledger, and pen and ink from the wreck, he commences like a true-born Briton to keep a set of books. His stockbook contains a list of the objects of utility that belong to him, of the operations necessary for their production, and lastly, of the labor time that definite quantities of those objects have on an average costing. All the relations between Robinson and the objects that form this wealth of his own creation are here so simple and clear as to be intelligible without exception, even to Mr. Sidney Taylor. And yet, those relations contain all that is essential to the determination of value. Let us now transport ourselves from Robinson's Island bathed in light to the European Middle Ages shrouded in darkness. Here, instead of the independent man, we find everyone dependent. Serfs and lords, vassals and citizens, laymen and clergy. Personal dependence here characterizes the social relations of production just as much as it does the other spheres of life organized on the basis of that production. But for that very reason, that personal dependence forms the groundwork of society, there is no necessity for labor and its products to assume a fantastic form different from their reality. They take the shape of the transactions of society, of services in kind and payments in kind. Here the particular and natural form of labor, and not as in a society based on production of commodities, in general abstract form, is the intermediate social form of labor. Compulsory labor is just as properly measured by time as commodity-producing labor. But every serf knows that when he expends in the service of his lord is a different quantity of his own personal labor power. The tithe to be rendered to the priest is more matter of fact than his blessing. No matter then what we may think of the parts played by the different classes of people themselves in the society, the social relations between individuals in the performance of their labor appear at all events as their mutual personal relations, and are not disguised under the shape of social relations between the products of labor. For an example of labor in common or directly associated labor, we have no occasion to go back to that spontaneously developed form which we find on the threshold of the history of all civilized races. We have one close at hand in the patriarchal industries of a peasant family that produce corn, cattle, yarn, linen, and clothing for home use. These different articles, as regards the family, so many products of his labor, but as between themselves, they are not commodities. The different kinds of labor, such as tillage, cattle tending, spinning, weaving, and making clothes, which result in the various products, are in themselves, and such as they are, direct social functions. Because functions of the family, which just as much as society based on the production of commodities, possesses a spontaneously developed system of division of labor. The distribution of the work within the family and the regulation of the labor time of the several members depend as well upon differences of age and sex as upon natural conditions varying with the seasons. The labor power of each individual, by its very nature, operates in this case merely as a definite portion of the whole labor power of the family, and therefore the measure of this expenditure of individual labor power by its duration appears here, by its very nature, as a social character of their labor. Let us now picture, by way of change, a community of free individuals carrying on their work with the means of production in common, in which the labor power of all the different individuals is consciously applied as the combined labor power of the community. All the characteristics of Robinson's labor are here repeated, but with this difference, that they are social instead of individual. Everything produced by him was exclusively the result of his own personal labor, and therefore simply an object of use for himself. The total product of our community is a special product. One portion serves as fresh means of production and remains social, but another portion is consumed by the members as a means of sustenance. A distribution of this portion amongst them is consequently necessary. The mode of this distribution will vary with the productive organization of the community and the degree of historical development attained by its producers. We will assume that merely for the sake of a parallel with the production of commodities, that the share of each individual's power in a means of subsistence is determined by his labor time. Labor time would, in that case, play a double part. Its appointment in accordance with a definite social plan maintains a proper proportion between the different kinds of work to be done and the various wants of the community. On the other hand, it also serves as a measure of the portion of the common labor borne by each individual and of his share in the part of the total product destined for individual consumption. The social relations of the individual producers with regard both to their labor and to its products
are in this case perfectly simple and intelligible, and that with regard not only to production, but also to distribution.